There's an old saying in the legal profession that there are three versions of every speech: the one you prepare, the one you deliver, and the one you wish you had given later. With any luck at all, this one will be all three. Now, despite that glowing introduction, most of you are probably still wondering, who is that guy and why is he giving a speech? Fair enough, I've asked that question myself. First of all, I am not a military hero in any way, shape, or form, and frankly, I'm not much of a public speaker. But I've spoken to many of you, I'm sure, over the years. Most of those speeches started with, welcome aboard, folks, this is your captain's speech. They were short, and I didn't have to look at anybody while I was making those speeches, so here we go. I spent most of my career as an airline pilot, but that journey began much earlier, back in Houston, Texas, in the days of the Vietnam draft. For those men out there who are of a certain age, you remember that turning 18 brought serious decision time. College was one deferment option, but expensive even back then, and it wasn't a given for our family. Luckily for me, a Navy recruiter moved into our block when I was about 17. He introduced my older brother and me to the Navy ROTC program. Heads up over in the band, and any of you parents who might be worried about college expenses. Navy ROTC gives you a full ride scholarship to top universities across the country, 8 of which are here in Pennsylvania. They also include most of the Ivy League, places like Stanford, Berkeley, Notre Dame, et cetera, et cetera. The only cost is 4 years of service after you graduate. And in my case, it was another year for going to Navy flight school. I'm told the Army and Air Force have similar programs now, but the Navy was the only one in my day. Long story short, I fulfilled my draft obligation, got a free college education. The Navy taught me to fly, and I ended up in the right and left seat of an airliner. Not a bad deal. So why me? Why not some other veteran or any citizen of Mount Lebanon? Well, when Laura Lilly from the municipality, who's here somewhere, she contacted me, and I told her she needed to speak to Todd DiPastino. He's a much better speaker, and he's the head of the Veterans Breakfast Club here in Mount Lebanon. She just laughed and said they had already arranged for Todd to speak at Veterans Day, and he had suggested me instead. I'm honored, of course, but a little nervous, as you can tell. Anyway, I strongly recommend any of you to go to one of the Veterans Breakfast Club's events. You don't need to be a veteran. Even Todd is not a veteran. But come hear him on Veterans Day, and I'm sure he won't disappoint. But enough of the recruiting speech for NROTC, or the VBC for that matter. I'd be happy to chat afterwards if anybody has interest in either one. But really, why are we here? What is Memorial Day all about? Well, let's start with a little history. And don't worry, band members, there'll be no test, no math, no algebra. War has been part of human history for as long as we've recorded it. As Plato said, which he is conveniently engraved on the cenotaph behind us, only the dead have seen the end of war. More on Plato later. Those who survived the wars have always honored those who didn't. The unspeakable carnage of World War I inspired the powerful poem by John McStay, a Canadian physician, colonel, and poet who himself did not survive the war. In Flanders fields, the poppies blow, between the crosses, row by row. If you've ever visited the American cemeteries in Normandy, you know their massive, sobering scale. Closer to home, the National Cemetery of the Alleghenies down in Bridgeville offers a quiet reminder of the cost of freedom. That red poppy has become the symbol of remembrance for those who have fallen. In the U.S., what began as Decoration Day wasn't an official holiday until, oddly enough, 1968. President Lyndon Johnson signed it into law, and it was later moved to the last Monday in May as part of the Uniform Monday Holiday Act. As it happens, I had just finished training that particular weekend. It was on my way to my duty station in Hawaii. Tough duty, I know, but somebody had to do it. Then in 2000, Congress added a national, quote, moment of remembrance, close quote, at 1500 hours, that's 3 p.m., on Memorial Day. Americans are asked to pause for 1 minute, whatever they're doing, to remember those who died in service to the country. But the Decoration Day tradition goes way back further. You Penn State folks might be proud to note that the earliest recorded ceremonies took place in the little center county town of Boalsburg. There, on July 4th, 1864, local women laid flowers on Civil War graves and continued that tradition. Two southern towns, both oddly enough named Columbia, one in Georgia, the other in Mississippi, also claimed to have had invented the same tradition. But perhaps the most moving early commemoration happened in Charleston, South Carolina. There, in a Confederate prisoner of war camp on a race course, over 260 Union soldiers died of disease and exposure. They were buried in a mass graveyard behind the grandstand. After the war, newly freed slaves exhumed and buried the dead in individual graves. They built a fence around the site and inscribed it with Martyrs of the Racecourse. And then, on May 1st, 1865, they held a parade to honor their fallen liberators. Noisy devils. That was arguably the first large-scale Memorial Day observance. The most recognized, however, was not from any government, but from the Grand Army of the Republic way back when. It's an organization of Union Army veterans and issued a general order establishing Decoration Day. The first ceremony took place in 1868 at Arlington Cemetery. Soon, many states made it an official state holiday as well. Sorry. While we may debate which town truly was first, Boalsburg, either the Columbias or Charleston, the purpose of Memorial Day remains unchanged, to honor those who died in defense of the nation. Here in Mount Lebanon, we have no shortage of fallen citizens, starting with the 73 names on the cenotaph behind me, including Medal of Honor winner Corporal Morgan and First Lieutenant Byrd, who's also honored at Byrd Park down the road. Both of these Marines were honest-to-God war heroes and should be looked up, discussed, and remembered. Whether it was the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, either World War, Korea, Vietnam, the Cold War, Iraq, Afghanistan, or any of the lesser-known conflicts, every fallen service member deserves to remember. It is their sacrifice that allows us the freedoms we too often take for granted. Never forget that. Let's also be clear. Memorial Day honors not just the famous battlefield heroes, but also every supply clerk, typist, medic, cook, and orderly who wore the uniform and gave their life in service. They left behind parents, siblings, children, and friends. They may not have medals or monuments, but they are no less worthy of remembering. As the saying goes, we don't know them, but we owe them. Both Memorial Day and Veterans Day are designated as somber, reflective days to remember those who served in uniform in defense of our country. So when someone says, Happy Memorial Day, how should we respond? How about something like, thanks, I plan to enjoy this long weekend, but I'll be thinking of those who made it possible and who are no longer with us. As we wrap up, please pause this afternoon at 3 for the National Moment of Remembrance. And I'll leave you with one final thought. The epitaph from the bloody World War II Battle of Kohima in India, where one of my uncles fought. The epitaph was actually adapted I love those things, but they are noisy. The Kohima epitaph was adapted from the epitaph of the Battle of Thermopylae back in Plato's time. When you go home, tell them of us and say, for your tomorrow, we gave our today. Thank you.